Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Sitting here Sunday morning, diving back into what we saw from the true freshman Dylan Raiola week one against UTEP. Now, I watched the game live Saturday afternoon. I came away quite impressed from what I saw from Dylan. Now, diving into the game again Sunday morning, looking at some of the advanced numbers, I quite frankly come away a little bit more impressed with the performance of Dylan Raiola. I think the biggest takeaway is that kid did not look like a true freshman operating that Nebraska offense. That's something that we've talked about, a lot over the last couple of months. Why are we so confident that Dylan Raiola can come into this Nebraska offense and find success? Yes, we know he has all the arm talent in the world. It was on full display against UTEP Saturday afternoon. My biggest takeaway is this kid, the moment's not too big. And we kind of said this, right? He is a very polished quarterback for a true freshman. And you certainly saw that against UTEP. I think he walks the line in terms of making big time throws, but not putting the ball in harm's way. Just about as good as I've seen any true freshman quarterback do so. And that's kind of a conversation you have where, hey, we brought you in for a reason to be a high level quarterback, to make those kind of high level throws. Can you walk the line between making those high level throws, but also not putting the ball in harm's way? For a true freshman in his first start, I thought he did a very nice job of it. At times, was he trying to do a little bit too much, specifically in the first quarter? Yeah, probably. But he really settled in the second quarter. And when that Nebraska offense started to hum, it just looked so different. And I think my biggest takeaway is the amount of space that you saw this Nebraska offense create with Dylan Raiola at the starting quarterback spot. You go back to 2023, one of our biggest takeaways was, yes, that passing attack really did struggle. That's no secret. But you look at how that overall impacted this Nebraska offense, there was just no space getting created. When you have that lack of vertical passing attack that Nebraska did in 2023, what are the safeties doing? They're just walking into the box, taking away the run game, taking away the short intermediate route concepts. Very little space was created in this Nebraska offense in 2023. You turn on that game from 2024 and you just see guys getting the football in space, being able to be playmakers. Yes, Dylan Raiola making those big time throws to guys like Isaiah Nayor. We absolutely love it. But I thought the biggest impact that the presence of Dylan Raiola had on the field was how much space Nebraska was able to create on the offensive side of the football. Where if you're UTEP and you're on defense, you need to respect what this Nebraska passing attack can do working vertically down the field, because if you don't, you're going to get burned by it. Nebraska didn't have that in 2023. It looks like they have that in 2024. That's what excites me most about this week one opener. I want to get into some of the numbers that we saw from Dylan, talk about some other aspects of the offense that I really liked as well. Now, before we get into it, as always, the Nebraska fans, it's truly been a blast talking this program. Many of you guys know we've talked extensively about this Nebraska offense all off season long. The amount of support y'all continue to show to the fellas, it truly does mean the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And much more importantly, would love to hear kind of your biggest takeaways in the comment section as well. And without further ado, let's get into it now. You look at Dylan's numbers: 19 to 27, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, a 70% completion percentage. That's an impressive number in and of itself. When you look at the average depth of target being 10.8 yards down the field, that 70% completion percentage seems a little bit more impressive. And what I mean by that is, you look at Bo Nix last year setting the record for completion percentage. His average depth of target was 6.4 yards down the field. Dylan's was nearly double that Saturday afternoon, and he completed 70% of his footballs. Extremely impressive. He was 6 of 7 between 10 and 19 yards down the field. So that intermediate passing attack was really, really clean. And he was 6 of 8 when blitzed. That's probably the most important number that we saw all Saturday afternoon. Where what's the biggest problem with a lot of freshman quarterback is, hey, we all got the arm talent, but can you see the defense? Can you understand your offense? Know what to do when you're hot? Like Dylan Raiola showed that at a very high level. And so you're taking away overall takeaways from Dylan's performance. I think he took care of the ball. He made some big time throws. He moved this Nebraska offense, created space within this Nebraska offense. I think it was a brilliant performance as a true freshman. Now, can that translate to better football teams down the road? That's kind of what we're looking at. there will be people coming in and saying, well, you played UTEP, you did what you're supposed to. Yeah, that's probably true, but Nebraska in the past hasn't done what they're supposed to against these kind of offenses. This Nebraska offense would have looked night and day different with the 2023 offense against UTEP than what it did Saturday afternoon. And so I think you can take a lot of optimism in that kind of performance. Now, moving to some other things that I really liked about this Nebraska offense, I got to start with the run game. I thought this offensive line was extremely physically imposing. Yes, did you have some blown assignments? Absolutely. That is supposed to happen week one. You're probably going to have blown assignments every single game of the season. That being said, on a down to down basis, I thought Nebraska imposed their will on the offensive line. A lot of moving, a lot of getting to the second level. The interior of this Nebraska offensive line is going to be an absolute horse. That is something is going to be able to ride, I think, all offseason. I think it's one of the better interior offensive offseason, all 2024 season. I thought Turner Corcoran looked really good at left tackle, or at least pretty solid at left tackle. One of the better performances we've seen from him in quite a long time. I think one of my biggest takeaways is this Nebraska rushing attack is going to be legit. And when you couple that with what Dylan Raiola can do working vertically down the field, that is a very good combination to have an explosive offense where you're going to run the football successfully. And if they don't load the box, Nebraska's going to have a lot of success running. But when you do start walking those safeties in, this Nebraska offense now can push the ball vertically down the field, go to some of those heavy play action looks, and make teams pay. They didn't have that ability in 2023. They do in 2024. But I was impressed with the Nebraska offensive line. I thought on average they were really being physically imposing along the lines of scrimmage. I think one of the more intriguing conversations to have is, all right, who won the running back battle, so to speak, right? Matt Rhule has been very vocal. We are looking for a running back to come in and kind of take over this backfield. I don't know if we got our answer. I thought Dante Dotto was the guy until he fumbled in the red zone. I don't think he played a single snap after that fumble. I don't blame Matt Rhule for doing it. Like, if you want to be serious about limiting the turnovers, hey, if you fumble in the red zone, you're on the bench for a little bit. I think that's very fair. No doubt Matt Rhule had that conversation with every single one of those running backs going into that football game. Dante Dowdle gave Nebraska what I think exactly what they're looking for, and that is a north and south physical runner that runs beyond their pads, getting 5, 6, 7 yards of carry. That's how Nebraska's offense wants to operate. Yes, you want to have explosive plays in the run game, but I think what's much more important is being efficient in the run game, right? Staying on schedule, the 2nd and 5s, the 3rd and 2s. That's how Nebraska wants to operate. Some of those body blows, kind of like how Michigan operated in 2023. That's what you saw from this offensive line and this running back room. I thought Gabe Ervin ran the football very hard, kind of a limited workload, probably still trying to get him back right. Emmett Johnson probably gives you the most all-around running back, where I'm starting to become more impressed in terms of Emmett Johnson running the ball physically, something that he probably lacked in 2023. He's not as big as some of the other running backs, but you saw him put on some weight, and I thought he ran, pretty hard between the tackles. But I think the special part about Emmett is when he does get to the second level, he's making linebackers and safeties miss. He can be a little bit more explosive when he gets out in space. I don't know if I have a strong take in terms of what running back I want to see get the lion's share of the workload against Colorado. I would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. My personal opinion is have the conversation with Dante Dotto because I thought he looked freaking awesome. Emmett Johnson's a guy you got to get carries. And you want one guy to kind of emerge, but it's nice to have a deep running back room. You go back to last year, it was really Emmett Johnson. Obviously, Gabe Ervin and Ramir Johnson went down. Anthony Grant couldn't hold on to the football. This running back room is significantly deeper than it was last year. Last storyline on the offense, having two legit NFL wide receivers. Jamal Banks and Isaiah Nair, they're NFL dudes. You didn't have a single one last year. Specifically, the roles that they play. Like Isaiah Nair looked exactly like we expected him to be. Working vertically down the field, making some of those contested catches, being an explosive down the field option for Dylan Raiola. Isaiah Nayor is built like an animal. I mean, you talk about not only big, but he is put together in terms of he's tall, but he's put together. And what he does with that football in the air, it's kind of next level. He gives Dylan one of those options. Jamal Banks, quite frankly, does the same thing where it's like, all right, they might be covered a little bit, but if you put it in the right spot, they can go up and make plays. We didn't have Nebraska wide receivers last year that could do those kind of things. So one of my bigger takeaways is not only do you have a quarterback that can push the ball down the field very well, you got two NFL wide receivers that can work vertically down the field very well as well. And then you sprinkle in guys like Ja'Cory Barney, who's going to be hard to keep off the field. That kid is so much juice when he gets the football in his hands. You saw some nice things from Carter Nelson. Look, this Nebraska offense gets better at every single position from 2023. Dylan obviously provides much better quarterback play. The wide receiver position, significantly better. Thought this was the best the offensive line has looked in a very long time. The running back room is loaded. And so you look at this Nebraska offense and say they're checking every single box that you wanted to see them check Saturday afternoon. Really, really impressive performance. It's a multidimensional offense that can do a lot of different things. Dylan Raiola just look, he opens up this offense in ways that Nebraska just couldn't in 2023. Going over to the defensive side of the football, it was a dominant performance, kind of an expected performance. I mean, UTEP ran over 50 plays. They had 200 yards total offense. Ty Robinson's a freak show up front. That kid, I think he's criminally underrated. I mean, I'm a Michigan guy, so I like to talk about Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. You talk about some of the better defensive linemen that we see in the country. I think Ty Robinson, quite frankly, needs to be in that discussion. They tackled extremely well. 4 missed tackles all game. That's one of the benefits of having a more physical fall camp that Matt Rhule clearly runs. Right. I think under Scott Frost, you had some of those, I wouldn't say cushiony fall camps, but there were fall camps where they were clearly not physical. And when they took the field week 1 and week 2, they looked like a team that hasn't played physical football in a very long time. You can tell that Matt Rhule is implementing a lot of physicality in these fall camp practices because this team came out and tackled. That was a really big takeaway. Pass rush looked solid. I think there was really one play Malcolm Hardsaw getting beat for the explosive touchdown. And outside of that, you're really good. Now, obviously, you want to limit those, and that's something we're going to have to talk about. Is you know, Colorado's going to want to spread you out, get safeties in man coverage on wide receivers, and try to win vertically. And so that's something that Nebraska needs to address heading into Colorado. We're going to talk about that tonight. But overall, the defense looked really solid. Dylan looked awesome. I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you're fired up about just doing what you were supposed to do against an inferior team. Again, something that we're not used to saying about this Nebraska team. We saw it. Team looks different, it feels different, in my opinion. We'll close it out there. Again, would love to hear your biggest takeaways in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all